executive coach. I've got a client who I need to give some advice to. And since you're here, I'm going to just have you help me out. He asked his top 12 leaders to spend 4 hours just imagining the future, coming up with strategy, ideas, 4 hours a week. The first week he did this, he was very clear, he wasn't subtle. You know how many people spent 4 hours doing that? 0. And I've been analyzing this because in a way, it's hard to get people off of what's good for me now and really focused on what's good for the world in the future. Imagine you're coaching this CEO. Give him some ideas to help him.
Right. Well, yeah, I think you have to understand the positive and the negative forces that shape an environment of imagination. So on the negative side, the main reason why it's hard for large companies to reimagine themselves is there are really 4 things. One of them is insularity. A company is a bit like a sphere. The more you grow the radius of the sphere, the lower the ratio of the surface area to the volume. More and more jobs become internal facing. And the one thing we know from the science of imagination, the neuroscience, is that imagination is triggered by surprise. The human brain is a very good anomaly detection machine. So insularity. The second one is complacency. You know, you and I consult with large, successful or formerly successful companies. That success can breed complacency, lack of urgency, no reason to reimagine is another enemy. The third one is inflexibility. It's very hard to turn the super tanker around. And also we have this mistake that we mistake our mental models for facts, whereas in fact they are choices. And then the last one is fear. As you know, many companies have a culture of compliance and fear. And if I'm afraid of making a mistake, I won't imagine. So what can leaders do about that? Well, there's a whole bunch of things we discuss in the book. One of the more unusual ones is we recommend an approach based on play and games. Now that may sound frivolous. We've invented 16 executive games to stretch the imagination, but actually I'm a former biologist, and biologically speaking, play is a rather serious business. Biologically, play is, what is it? It's accelerated, pleasurable, spontaneous, de-risked learning. That's why it's a wonderful way of stretching the imagination. And so to give you a couple of quick examples, we have something called the bad customer game. The bad customer game says, go to the people that are not your customers, your dissatisfied customers, really get inside their head and imagine that they are right. You know, their lack of will to do business with you, they are right. And you reimagine your company to match that set of dissatisfactions, and it triggers new ideas. Another one is a fun one, a rather macabre one, is what we call the pre-mortem game. It's when you imagine giving the press conference to apologize for the collapse of your business. You fail to reimagine your business. And you tell the story, you make a convincing case for why you're apologizing for the death of your company 5 years hence. And if you take that exercise very seriously, you begin to uncover all of the hidden assumptions of your mental models and so on. So I find these games very powerful in a low-risk way, engaging people's imaginations.
And Martin, you're so right in what you're saying. I remember for one of our clients, Maersk, the largest shipping company in the world, we had such a big challenge making them think differently. So what we did was we said, what would happen if you bought Uber, if Maersk bought Uber? And they went through these simulation scenarios, and suddenly they actually felt the pain the Maersk customers felt and could feel it enough for them to gather the troops and change the organization. So it's absolutely spot on, at least in my opinion, about what you're saying about gaming. I want to say to all of you guys watching out there that we'll give you the URL and the QR code for you to go in and visit and look at some of the games in the book which Martin has written. Okay, coming up, how do you turn around an 84-year-old German company and its 650,000 employees after having just witnessed a near life-threatening crisis? The answer will surprise you. But in doing so, I'm so pleased to have Gord Kell joining us. Gord is the chair of the Volkswagen Sustainability Council. He is the founding executive director of the United Nations Global Impact, the world's largest volunteer corporate sustainability initiative with over, get this, it's crazy, 9,000 corporate signatures in more than 160 countries. Welcome, Gord.
Thank you, Martin. Great to be with you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And I have to go straight to the point, and I apologize for this, but take me behind the scenes and give me a sense of the panic, which I'm sure you must have witnessed as VW or Volkswagen came to realize the consequences of Dieselgate.
Well, we were asked to join as an external body in 2016 when the crisis really kept on unfolding. It broke in 2015, but throughout 2016, the full dimensions of the crisis became obvious. And at that point, the leadership, the board of management was, I would describe it as in shock, paralysis prevailed, and fear. People were really scared. And half of the board members in those days were actually what I would call old diesel heads. So existential fears presumably came with it. And that was the moment when we joined in this deep disruption.
So tell me, this is a monumental task. I mean, turning around a 650,000 people company around. How in earth did they do it? How did you do it? What was the approach?
Well, in crisis and finding solutions, the key is first to identify the root causes as quickly as possible, to face reality. So our contribution was to kind of force or nudge executives to face reality and not run away and draw conclusions and learn quickly from it, admit it publicly, and make the changes that are called for as quickly as possible. Time is of the essence. And the second one is to use crisis as an opportunity for a new beginning. And that's where we were very lucky. We pushed for e-mobility for a diesel company in those days, where one of the board members, who was then the CEO of one of the brands of Volkswagen, Herbert Diess, he already worked on e-mobility. And he drew that conclusion already while the diesel crisis was unfolding. So our job was really to support that transition then and make the case. There was enormous resistance internally first against this radical transformation, moving from combustion engines to e-mobility and a whole new set of technologies, digitalization. So our contribution was really to facilitate and encourage and enable that change as quickly as possible. And that's where the excitement came in. It took 2 more years before substantive amounts of money were made available. And that put then Volkswagen into a leadership position among the established automotive industries, being the first one to really embrace e-mobility on a massive scale. And with this change came also the realization to open up a closed organization, to look forward and to gather the momentum for a new beginning. So it was a process, I would say. Number one is face reality, draw conclusions, look for opportunities, new beginning, use the crisis as an opportunity, and then make it happen inside, which is always the most challenging way of doing things, I guess.